Hey everyone, I'm Sean Brown, and today we're here with Misti Davis for another episode of Real Talk. You guys might know her from Pink Fly Photography. You've probably seen her on Instagram and Facebook, and checked out her amazing work. So I'm super pumped to have her on here today. She's based out of the Dallas, Texas area, and we're going to basically kind of cover her journey as a photographer. So welcome to Real Talk.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I'm always looking for kind of different individuals to have on here so that people can get kind of a taste of just kind of photographers from throughout the country. So first off, tell us a little bit about your work, just because I think that's something, or your background, just because I think that's something that everybody, for those of you who don't know Misti, would love to hear about.
So I actually was in real estate for like 8 years, kind of weird. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And my stepmom bought, like in 2006, 2007, a Canon Rebel. And she was sitting there and she was like, I just got this new camera. Da, da, da. She was like, but I cannot figure out how to use it. She was like, I hate it. All my pictures are blurry. Like, she was just really frustrated. And I was like, well, look at it. And so she was like, she goes, if you can figure out how to use it by the end of the day, she was like, you can just have it. She's like, because I just don't think I want to mess with it. I was like, okay. So I sat there and I was like glued, like going, what's this? What's this? Like reading the manual, which I don't read manuals, so I don't know why I was even doing that. I guess I was just really interested.
Yeah.
And so I just, by the end of the day, I was like, okay, I think if you do this and whatever. And I was kind of like showing her, and she was like, yeah, done. Like, she's like, that's too complicated to me. I just want to like click and shoot. So I said, okay, sounds great. So I took it home, like score on my part, but just really kind of dove into it. And I don't know if the website's still around anymore, but I was like, I got to teach myself how to use this. Like, it seems really fun. And so there was a website called betterphoto.com.
Okay.
Sign up for classes to learn how to use your camera. And so you would like go take pictures. I'd pull my friends because I didn't have kids, and I'd pull my husband. He loved that, let me tell you. And friends, and be like, hey, let me take your pictures. I got to submit to this, thing that they're going to critique and tell me what I need to do with lighting and all that kind of stuff. So I did that for a while. And then started really kind of getting into just photographing everything. Like most photographers.
Don't we all?
Like, yeah. Like, I'll take a picture of that piece of trash if you want me to. I will totally do that. Like, I love it. So yeah, I just did it all. And then like, started business, but actually clients paying was about 2008, 2009. And my sister was graduating from high school. We're very far apart in age, in 2010. And she was like, will you take my pictures? And I was like, they do senior pictures? Like, yeah. Well, and I just remember like mine was like at a studio, like super cheesy. And so I just was like, wait, you want me to like just take you outside and do pictures? And she was like, yeah. So we did it, and she's awkward. So it was awkward, but it was fun. I loved it. But because I did her pictures, some of her friends started coming to me. And so when they started coming, I was like, okay, like I've discovered about myself, I'm a very one-on-one type person. Like, I get really overwhelmed. So weddings were like not my jam. Like, I'm kind of a control freak. So that's another reason why weddings weren't my jam. Babies weren't my jam because of that either. Because I was just like, wait, they're peeing. Like, I'm like, I don't know how to deal with this. But seniors, it felt right. And I had fun with them, and I could talk to them. And, I like fashion and, the silly shows that they watch. And so I just really loved like, bonding with them. So I think 2011 is about when I just said, okay, I'm not doing anything else.
Sure.
I'm directly on seniors.
So you watch like The Bachelor and all that and like tweet along with them or anything like that? So kind of when you were mentioning going back to say like 2010 with your sister graduating, and you were thinking like the whole like studio portrait, like the weird face up in the corner, if they still even do that, kind of when did you see that transition in the industry, and kind of like what did you do to adapt, or did you just go like head first into like on location, natural light photography, kind of that sort of thing?
So pretty much went head first. There was one other girl in the area that I know of that was really doing a lot of senior stuff. But other than that, like everything was very studio based still. And I liked her stuff and I thought, yeah, that's more me. I'm not a studio person. That's, you know, again, I don't like being totally restricted. And so, yeah, so I just kind of kept going and saying, okay, let's look at different outfits and changing and doing stuff like that. And randomly at about 2011 even, this lady down the street from me contacted me and was like, hey, so I was Googling and found out that you're like on my street. She was like, I'm a makeup artist. And I was like, yeah. And she was like, do you ever want to do like makeup for your like seniors or anybody? Well, back then I was like, no. I'm like, you know, because you didn't hear about that, you know? And I was like, that's just more money. I don't think they're going to want to spend that. And I'm like, but I mean, I'll send them your way if they want to, you know? It was just very random. And she was amazing. Well, I had like the first senior after I'd met that girl or met the makeup artist, I was like, okay, there's this makeup artist. She lives on my street. I'm like, if you want to, you know, whatever, we can try her out and I'll pay for it. Cause I knew the girl and I was like, I'll pay for it. And I go, so we can test it. And she was like, okay. And it just, from that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is great. This is perfect. So we worked together now ever since. So it's been pretty awesome. But yeah, so we just kind of dove into it and decided to, you know, keep it fun and relaxed because that's more my vibe anyways. So, but yeah, it definitely was tough to transition people away from some of that studio stuff because people were still really in this area big into going to a studio.
Yeah.
Or the person who usually the person that ran the studio is also the person that goes and like photographs all the football games,
the school dances, all of that. Yep.
So they knew him, you know, and stuff like that. So it was much harder for me to kind of pull that this way a little bit. But then once people saw it and they realized they, you know, that it was something different,
yeah,
they kind of gravitated towards it.
So let's talk about that for a little bit too, because I think as photographers, we sometimes get stuck in this is how it has to be done and we can't really deviate or else we won't book clients. However, you see like your story where you're talking about going from those traditional studios to the on location method and how that honestly is kind of what it's transitioned to in the industry, and you really don't see people going to studios. So what was it like, or kind of what were your initial thoughts when you were like, okay, this is something that I personally want to do and I'm going to make it happen? Kind of walk us through that process a bit.
I will say that it was just very much, I remember, I'll never forget, I looked at my husband and I said, I need to quit my job. And he was like, wait, what? And I was like, yeah, I need to quit my job. And I was like, and I'm going to go head first into this and I'm going to build this. And I promise I'm going to make it to where I'm making as much as I'm making now in real estate. I'm like, I promise you. I'm like, you got to give me a little bit, but I promise I'll do it. And so, yeah, so he was just like, I mean, if you think that you can do it, I'll support you. But if it's not by X time, you know, we need to consider, you know, you going back to work, whatever. So I was kind of on that mission of like, I will make this work. And it was something that I loved so much. So just really trying to like market myself as much as possible, working with girls. Social media was kind of Facebook only back then.
Yeah.
So it was huge for getting my business off the ground because it was a lot of like tagging mom and tagging daughter, and everybody saw it back then, where now girls are like, oh, I don't have a Facebook page. And I'm like, oh, okay, you know, or Instagram's gotten, you know, kind of taken over a little bit, but girls even here as much don't post a lot because it's kind of the faux pas of like, you're all about yourself if you're posting that, you know. So social media I think is a little tougher now with getting your name out there than it used to be. But that really just kind of helped get my name off the ground a little bit more to where people saw something different and, you know, just kind of gravitated towards that style much more than being in that studio. And even today, like, I feel like because it's been so long, you kind of get burnt out on what you've been doing for X amount of years, you know? And I was getting to that pivotal moment where I was like, you know, I'm not loving what I'm producing, you know, what I'm making anymore. And, you know, the art that I'm creating is just seeming like the same stuff I was creating in 2012, you know? Like I feel like I wasn't doing everything that I loved. And so, you know, even now I've like completely changed the way everything looks and what I gravitate towards, you know, capturing more emotion in my pictures than, you know, the posed look, which the control freak in me is like learning to
Yeah.
adapt to that. But that's even been really good because you worry about that change and are people going to accept it? Kind of like, when you decide to dive into doing something different than the studio, like, are people going to look at that and still want you to be their photographer? And so far I have to say it's actually people, moms love those pictures of their daughter actually cracking up laughing, and
That's the authentic them. That's
yeah.
what they see on the day-to-day stuff, not the hand here and all of that stuff.
Yeah. So it's been good because they see what I love about it, and it's not just because their daughters are all made up and look, different than their normal day to day. So, it feels good to see your child being themselves in pictures too.
So going off, you were saying that you at one point there was a period where you didn't love what you shot.
Yes.
And you felt like there was a change that needed to happen. So what did you do? Because I think a lot of people are in that boat where they said, okay, they've been in business for 3, 4, 5 years now, and it's like they're still shooting the same stuff that they were 3 years ago. They haven't really evolved or innovated or changed it at all. And now they're just kind of like, cool, it's the exact same thing. So what did you do to combat that? Or what's like one piece of advice that you would have for somebody that's maybe going through that right now?
I would say, honestly, like my biggest thing was sitting down and just saying, okay, what are the images that I love the most? Like, let's go through my past sessions because I obviously loved what I was doing. I loved connecting with my clients and everything. I just need to figure out those images that every time I saw them, I got excited. Even if mom didn't pick them, those were the ones that I was like, ooh, yes, I love that, So I just kind of really went through all those and for the past like 2 or 3 years and pulled them into a separate little folder on my computer and just stared at them. And I was like, okay, why do I love these? Because they all have some sort of emotion and movement. It's not constantly just standing there or sitting perfectly posed. So I was like, you know what? If that's what makes me happy, I need to just go after that and photograph that because then I'll be happier again in my work because I still loved what I did. It just wasn't moving me as much anymore. I was feeling kind of in a sense burnt out every time I did a session. So seeing that again, it kind of like fueled my fire again. And I was like, okay, that's what I'm doing. And it was like during winter time. So we don't do sessions in winter here. And so I know it's Texas. It's not technically winter like everybody else, but here it's still cold to us. So, but I pulled a girl and I was like, hey, I just need to shoot. I'm like, I need you. I'm going to spend the whole time like just photographing you this way that I feel inspired. And so we did that. And I had her, I think I used my 35 millimeter the whole time, which I never had touched before.
Yep.
It was those lenses that I bought that I was like, I don't know about this. This looks kind of weird. It's kind of distorted, And then I was like, nope.
Meanwhile, you buy it anyways, even though you're like, trying to talk yourself out of it.
Yeah. I have so many lenses that I'm like, I don't ever touch that one, but I have it, just in case. So it just kind of like forced myself to do what I wanted and to make pictures that I wanted. And there was no, she wasn't paying me and there was no mom I had to, please or anything like that. And so we just shot and it was really funny. We got done with that session. I had so much fun. It was kind of a yucky day, obviously in the winter time or whatever, but that mom, because I sent her the digitals and I said, thank you for modeling for me and being, there to help me just kind of inspire me again for this new way that I want to do my business. And so the mom sent me this like amazing letter that was like, you captured my daughter the way she is and who she is. And these photos are the best photos because of her laughter in them and just all this stuff. And I was like, she just wrote the sweetest thing. And I thought, I've gotten really great like compliments before from parents, but that just was like, it just felt real.
Almost like the affirmation that it's that is okay to do.
Good. Yeah. And so, so from that point on, it was like, all right, this is what I want. That's what I want to do. So I think just kind of digging in deep to yourself and looking at the images. And even if you just want to go on Pinterest and make a Pinterest board of images that you're drawn to, that kind of helps you to see like, that's the work I want to create. So let's start diving into that and do what makes you happy. So
I almost love how you said that you looked at your own work first, because I think that as photographers, we get so caught up in, okay, I need to look at so-and-so's work because they're booking more clients or their work is so awesome. But I think like once you look back at your own work, I think that that's kind of the most telling, because you're creating stuff that you connect with. It might not be every single image, but but you are creating that. So I love how you actually went back to your own work rather than like, ooh, I need to look like her work, because I think that's the quickest way to kind of derail yourself from making any progress if you don't even know where you start, or every time you see like another shiny object, you're like in that direction.
Yeah, no, and totally. And that, I'm a big proponent of not comparing yourself to others, just because, and that's why I chose to like really reflect even more on my own self and who I am. Like, I just thought, okay, like even my branding doesn't even showcase who I am. Like, it was just so much more glitz and glamour, and I'm not a glitz and glamour girl, like I'm sure I like my makeup sometimes, but like for the most part, like I'm the girl that likes to go camping, and I do trips by myself going hiking, and things like that. So I'm more of that like down to earth girl, and my work in my studio was not reflecting that. And so just really, I think, reflecting on who you are, making sure that you're putting out there what you want and who you are as a person, or rather than what you think you have to do because of what other people are doing around you. So
yeah, I love that. So kind of going off of the topic of everybody doing everything that's the same around you, prior to the talk, we talked a little bit about, I was like, oh, do you have a senior rep team? And you're like, yeah, but everybody else in the Dallas area kind of does too. So when you started seeing that, how did you work to adapt, or what were your initial thought processes? Because I think there are a lot of photographers where they're like, cool, I'm going to start a senior rep team, and that's going to solve all my issues. And then all of a sudden it's like, so-and-so has one, and then the other photographer down the road has one too. So kind of walk us through, or tell us a little bit about that, and kind of how you work to adapt to still grow your business or still book clients.
Yeah, so I would say probably the biggest thing is I did my first rep program back in.
I think we're all there. It's like the rep program. It's not really a program. It's kind of
Yeah, just girls that you have model for you, and stuff.
Yeah.
But back then it really was like I gave them little rep cards, and they went out and told their friends about me, and then their friends would bring their cards to me that said they got $50 off, their session or something. And so that really was pivotal in helping me build my business back in 2012 with just seniors. But it started really transitioning where I was getting a lot of my girls not sending me any referrals. They were kind of telling me that, we sat down and I was like, what's going on? Am I not providing enough for you guys to be able to get people to tell them about, to come here and stuff? And they said, no. They're like, this was, I think, 2015 or 16. And they said, no, it's not that. It's that everybody is in a rep program. So we can't go to anybody at school and say, hey, use Pinkfly, because they're like, oh, well, I represent so-and-so. Because the industry here, especially, we're a big city. I mean, there is enough business to go around, so it's great. But it's boomed big time with like photographers. So the amount of different photographers doing seniors now is a lot more than it was when I first started. And so they're like, just everybody's in something already. And so I was like, oh, okay. So this is turning less into refer a friend and help get me more business. Then this is turning into, basically, you're just a part of like something special, being
kind of like that status symbol that they're looking. Yeah.
So they were just basically regular paying clients now that were just getting a few perks for being in this club, or like you said, status or whatever that not everybody got to. So I kind of had to scratch the whole feeling of like getting extra business out of it, or referrals from it, and just really make it special. So I kind of transitioned it to where, they had to start paying, they couldn't just be regular paying, they had to start paying to be a part of it, because we were doing things different. So we have like a retreat that we do every year to like a lake nearby, and we do like a photo shoot, and just kind of did things a little bit differently with that. Not everybody provided. And I'm probably one of the only ones in my area that does like really super stylized rep shoots.
Yeah.
So a lot of them do just kind of like where they work with maybe boutiques and stuff, and or the regular clothes. Whereas I'll get crazy, and I like doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So together and dress them up weird and, have some sort of theme a little bit more. And so that kind of helped too, because girls saw that that was different than just getting your picture taken like would wear normal for your senior pictures. So that helped too. But yeah, no, it's now just become a little bit more like I've basically pre-book clients, but they're in like a special group before the school year starts. So it's not as much about getting more business. They do help me to when they post images, people know about me more.
Sure, brand awareness and that sort of thing, but it's not necessarily direct referrals. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it is definitely transitioned here. I know everywhere is different, but here it's transitioned a lot more to where, it's a dime or dozen to be in a rep program. So you really do have to make something a little bit different about yourself to stand out, to be a part of that rep program. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's a lot of areas too, to be honest, or at least areas that senior photography is more of a thing.
Yeah.
Whereas some parts in the country, it's like a lot of photographers will email you or you see posted in like Facebook groups and they're like, senior photos just like aren't a thing here. And so I think in those areas, maybe rep programs are still kind of evolving, still a little bit more beneficial, but in areas like you were in where it's like everybody kind of has one, it almost becomes like you have to rework it as how do you want to approach it and what do you want to get out of it?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And then the girls still love it. And I still have so much fun, doing it with them. My groups are smaller. I mean, I used to have I'd have model groups that were 15 to 18 girls. And now it's dwindled down to where I'm usually right around 7 or 8, so
and that is I'm usually about 10 and this year is 18 and I'm bracing myself for the craziness that might be this year, but so far it's going amazing. So
that's
fingers crossed. Yeah.
It's crazy. But I have friends that are in other states, they're photographers and they're like, oh yeah, no, anybody can be a model. And they're just paying clients basically. And so they'll have 50. And I'm like, what? I'm like, but it's a totally different type of program than what we do here. Mine's a little bit more, close niche, and we do things like we have ice cream dates or study dates and hang out and, things like that a little bit more. And sometimes community service projects and things like that. So.
And I think it depends on kind of what feel you want your team to have, where if you want it a little bit more intimate, where it's the girls actually interacting with each other on a more one-on-one basis versus kind of just something that they're a part of, kind of can, I don't know, put on a resume, so to speak, or whatnot.
Right. Yeah. So I do love it though. And the girls this year are really awesome because this year I opened it up to all high school age girls. So we've got seniors, they're gonna be seniors, and then any girls 9th through 11th, they're basically they're called mini models.
Oh yeah. We
kind of did a big sis, little sis thing. So that's kind of a big thing when they go off to sororities that they do. And sororities are huge in Texas and everything. So these girls understand all that. But so that was something really cool that they're excited about, that they get to kind of be a big sis or have a, little sis for the year and do cool things with them. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I guess we're going to reflect back on kind of your journey as a photographer. What is one obstacle that you remember, and can you tell us a little bit about kind of overcoming that or just in general about that and how it kind of evolved you as a business owner or person?
I mean, I'd say probably the most difficult thing was, and I think it always kind of is valuing myself enough for this business. I think that was really hard in the beginning, and I struggled with getting the right type of clients in the beginning because I didn't know what to charge. And so I was getting a lot of people that didn't value photography as much. And so with that, I think, I always say a lot of times, we kind of talked about, the reason why I feel like I touch a lot on pricing and things like that is not to be oh, everybody needs to charge X or whatever, is because I know for so many years of trying to build a business doing this, it was so hard to figure out what I was worth and what people would pay and say I can do this, whatever. And so there were so many years that I was making nothing and I wasn't working with the right type of clients because they didn't want, they were fine with paying $150, if I would have told them, so it was a big struggle in the beginning to finally get to a point where I was okay, Like, I'm worth this, I need to start, charging this and making it to where, I'm more of a boutique business and not just, hey, I'm going to shoot and burn and give you whatever. Because those clients, although I love them, they did help me build my business. They were also the ones that were a little bit more particular about everything I did. And they kind of had their say in everything I did, of like, well, I don't know if I like that, or her hair's kind of looks out of place there. Can you do something about that? Whereas the ones when I started, charging what I do today, they look at the images and they're just like, oh, we just love them. They're beautiful, and they're less picky. And I don't know why that works like that, but it really does. So I would say that was something, if I could go back and know that from the beginning, I would have saved myself a lot of heartache through the years, and the struggles. So I would say like, that's a huge thing for other photographers, that I know it seems like you shouldn't charge much if you're starting out or whatever, but you need to charge enough to value yourself that you can make this a business and not, struggle for so long or have the wrong type of clientele, that is for you. So I don't know. I think that's probably was my biggest regret, that I wish I went back and really kind of skipped that whole, like, sure, I'll do it for like $300, and everything. And, had those type of people that were telling me like, no, I can't do this, or I can't, you just got to
kind of almost like that, like progressive name your own price tool. And they're like, all right, I want to pay $250 for this. And this is like, all right, let's go.
Yeah. And I would let people talk, sit at sales order sessions, and they would be like, is it really this much? And I'm like, well, I mean, if you don't want to pay that, then I guess like, I just was so unsure about myself. And it's hard because you're doing something you love to really like put a price on it and a value, but you have to. It's a struggle, but you have to.
I love how you said value yourself, just because I think that so many photographers at first, when they're starting out, they're like, oh yeah, I only want to charge like $150 because I'll get so many clients. And then you're like, oh my goodness, if I book more clients, and that means more people like my work. But really it comes down to like, you are a photographer, but you're running a business. And so you have to price yourself as one, you have to value yourself. And
oh, totally. Yeah. And I tell, I've said this before, like I know that my average, I spend probably about 15 to 20 hours per client. And so if I'm only charging like $300 or whatever for a session, I mean, I might as well go work at Walmart, I might as well be a cashier, not saying there's anything wrong with that, but like, I'm doing what I love, and I quit my great paying job so that I could help provide, doing something that I'm passionate about, and I'm not valuing myself enough, so it's not fair to yourself. So I think it's huge to really like realize that the time that you're spending on this is very valuable. So
I think that you, as a photographer, you almost have to get kind of real with yourself and think, okay, am I doing this as a business, or is this something that I'm doing as a hobby?
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of photographers get caught up in almost kind of I guess we'll call it kind of an illusion of running a photography business and not really making anything. Yeah. And just spending all of their time editing and away from their family, when it's like, cool, you could be working a 40-hour-a-week job or part-time, making just as much as you do now, and then all of a sudden do 2 shoots on the weekends, and you have so much more time, or 2 shoots like after you get off or whatever it is, and have so much more time with your family and that sort of thing. So I think you really have to get real with yourself. Is if you want to run a business, like, you got to kind of run it like a business.
Yeah. And then it's hard to get that, but I'll never forget the day my husband looked at me and he goes, okay, he was like, we got to have a talk. And I was like, what? And he was like, you have to stop working. Like, I know that like you love this and you love what you do, but he's like, if you were working your other job, you would stop at 5 o'clock and you would be on your way home and you would have your evenings. He was like, but you sit in there and you edit all night and you do it, whatever. It's like, you never cut it off. And I think that was like that kind of aha moment of like, this is a business. I need to have that cutoff time. I need to have that like, moment where I say like, this, I'm working 9 to 5 and I'm done today, or whatever. So, yeah, because your time, it takes away from other people. So yeah, you got to make sure whether this is something you just want to do for fun, or if this is something that you're making a business out of. And so.
And I think as photographers, it's easy to justify working extra just because it's something that's so close to us, where it's art is kind of very emotional, and when you combine that with the business stuff, it's like, oh my goodness, I need to like work so much to I don't know, kind of almost like justify to yourself that this is kind of what you're doing is right. And so I think it's easy to get caught up in that at first.
Yeah, no, perfectly said. For sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We'll kind of end with where people can find you on social media, websites, or anything else that you kind of have set up for photographers.
Okay. So website, everything's Pinkfly Photo. Just super easy that way. So I have pinkflyphoto.com, Instagram. I do have a little tiny design shop on Etsy, Pinkfly Designs or whatever, because I love that side of everything too. So yeah, I'm that person that wants to do it all. So so yeah, and then Twitter, I don't even think I know how to get into my Twitter.
Perfect.
So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
Awesome. And then we always end the episode, you get to ask one question to the audience for them to leave a comment in the YouTube box below. So what is your one question that you want the audience to answer for us today? It could be anything, like personal, business, life, anything.
Oh, man. I guess, I don't know. I would probably say if you sat down and you could do anything you want, what would it be? And are you doing that, or are you close to doing that? Like if, say you really love the fashion side of photography, are you gravitating towards that? Or are you just doing kind of like what we talked about, what you feel like you have to do? So I think that's a big question everybody should be asking themselves to make sure they're doing what makes them happy. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Well said. Perfect. Well, thank you again for joining us on Real Talk. It was a pleasure to kind of have you on here and hear a little bit more about your story and all of that. So thank you again.
I appreciate it. It was nice talking to you.
Yeah, you as well. So we'll see you guys on the next episode of Real Talk.